Good afternoon. First, I want Floridians to know that your state government is fully committed to doing everything we can to keep your family safe. I just received a briefing from emergency management officials here in Tampa. Right now, the National Hurricane Center is reporting that Hurricane Irma remains a dangerous and life-threatening Category 4 storm with winds of 150 miles per hour. A storm surge warning is in effect for Sebastian Inlet southward around the peninsula to Venice and the Florida Keys. The storm surge watch is in effect for north of Sebastian Inlet to Ponce Inlet. The storm surge is forecast to be 3 to 12 feet. Think about that, 3 to 12 feet. Across this area, which is life-threatening. A hurricane warning is in effect for Jupiter Inlet southward around the Florida Peninsula to Bonita Beach, the Florida Keys, Lake Okeechobee, and Florida Bay. A hurricane watch is in effect for north of Jupiter Inlet to the Flagler-Volusia County line, and north of Bonita Beach to Anclote River. Rainfall is forecast to be 8 to 12 inches, with isolated areas receiving up to 20 inches of rain. Based on what we know now, the majority of Florida will have major hurricane impacts with deadly storm surge and life-threatening winds. We can expect this along the entire East Coast and West Coast. The Florida Keys should be prepared to start feeling the effects of the storm tomorrow morning. If you're in the Panhandle, you will also experience severe weather. Please be prepared for this. Evacuations. I've ordered school buses to aid evacuations statewide. Multiple counties have accepted these buses, and I encourage any counties with a need for buses to evacuate residents request buses right now. Our traffic and roadways experts report that the Keys are heavily evacuated. All gas stations in the Keys are currently closed, but if you're still in the Keys, get out now. We will quickly run out of good weather to evacuate. If you need any help in the state to evacuate, 1-800-342-3557. But if you're in the Keys, leave now. Anywhere in the state, if you're told to evacuate, leave, get out quickly. I'm a dad and I'm a grandfather. I love my family. I can't imagine life without them. Do not put yourself or your family at risk. If you've been ordered to evacuate and are still home, please go to a shelter. I encourage everyone to check on your neighbors. If you know someone in your neighborhood who is not evacuating and should, please contact them. Take care of each other. Please check on your neighbors with special needs or the elderly. And if you can take people in, please do it. Today is the day to do the right thing for your family and get to safety. Today is the day the right thing for your family and every family in the state to make sure you have a plan and get to safety. This storm is wider than our entire state and is expected to cause major and life-threatening impacts from coast to coast. Remember, Hurricane Andrew is one of the worst storms in the history of the state. Irma is more devastating on its current path. Irma has already caused multiple fatalities in the Caribbean. This storm is powerful and deadly. We are being very aggressive in our preparation for this storm, and every Floridian should take this seriously and be aggressive to protect their family. Possessions can be replaced, your family cannot. I know it's hard to evacuate, and it's very uncomfortable. I think about my mom and how hard it would have been for her to be completely broke with kids and have to evacuate. But you have to do it. You can't afford not to do it. Think about your family. You have to keep your family safe. To private business owners, please be compassionate with your employees as they prepare for this storm and evacuate. I was a business owner when Hurricane Andrew devastated the state 25 years ago. The single most important thing right now is the safety of your employees and their families. For the remainder of the state waiting on evacuation orders, listen to your local officials. They will tell you if and when your area needs to be evacuated. Listen to them. Follow the news. We can expect additional evacuations as this storm continues to come up through the state. I cannot stress this enough. Do not ignore any evacuation orders. All Floridians should be prepared to evacuate. Lake Okeechobee. Based on recent forecasts, the U.S. Army Corps has been reviewing how the federally operated dike will be impacted. I spoke to Colonel Jason Kirk with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers last night, and I met with the Corps today. They believe there will be additional impacts from excessive wind pushing some water over the dike. They have assured me that the structural integrity of the dike will not be compromised but they're worried about water flowing over the top. I ordered evacuations of the cities surrounding the southern half of Lake Okeechobee from Lakeport to Canal Point in Hendry, Palm Beach, and Glades counties. The decision was made due to our sole focus on life safety. Traffic. I know many of you are stuck in traffic, and I know you have to be frustrated. All I ask is to be patient. Evacuations are not convenient, but the goal is for them to be safe. I'm glad so many people are driving to safe places. We have increased the number of troopers on Florida highways to help move traffic and keep people moving, going down the road. We have 1,700 troopers working 12-hour shifts. These dedicated officers are 100% focused on safety and aren't taking a day off. Also, all administrative duties have been suspended at FHP. This means all sworn FHP officers are on roads helping families evacuate and bringing supplies to areas of need. We've also increased the number of road rangers who are patrolling Florida's roadways 24/7 to assist motorists. Around the state, we have hundreds of DOT workers monitoring traffic cameras 24/7 to ensure traffic flows continue and evacuations proceed without interruptions. All of this is to help everyone that's going to evacuate get safely where they need to go. Contraflow. We still need southbound lanes to get needed gas and supplies down to shelters and families that need it in the southern parts of the state. Contraflow inhibits our ability to get emergency vehicles to people that need them. Right now, to ease congestion, we have activated the use of shoulders on I-75 from Wildwood to the Georgia line. But please drive very safely and listen to law enforcement. They're working to keep you and your family safe. Real-time traffic information and evacuation routes are available at fl511.com. We're seeing bottlenecks at major highway junctions, which brings up an important point. If you do not need to evacuate out of the state or hundreds of miles away to stay safe, there's a lot. You don't always have to do that. There is going to be shelters all around the state. So if you don't need to be on the road, get off and go to a shelter. We are coordinating with Google Emergency Response Team to prepare to close roads on Google Maps in real time in the event Hurricane Irma forces the closure of any roads. In my direction, all tolls on all the roads in the state have been waived. Visit Florida's Welcome Centers have transitioned to emergency information centers to help direct evacuees with the most up-to-date information. Visit Florida's Welcome Center staff and are all Red Cross certified and stand ready to assist as needed. If you are concerned that you don't have a way to evacuate due to traffic, please call the emergency hotline 1-800-342-3557. We will do everything possible to get you out. Fuel. One of our top priorities has been fuel availability. I was alerted yesterday by Vice President Pence that the federal government has waived additional rules and regulations to allow more fuel to get to Florida fast. I want to thank the EPA, I want to thank the President, the Vice President for all their efforts to help us get more fuel in the state. We know there are problems with supply at gas stations. State law enforcement are providing escort services to gas trucks to get them through traffic so they can get to these stations faster. These law enforcement escorts have continued throughout the night, and they'll go as long as possible. You've probably seen some of them around the state. For gas stations in evacuation zones, we need to stay open as long as possible so people can get fuel and get out. We will arrange police escorts for your employees so they can get out safely. So please stay open. If you're in an evacuation zone in your gas station, please stay open as long as you can. We all know how important fuel is. We're devoting every state resource, and the federal government is working to try to make sure we have all the fuel we can get here. 3 tanker trucks delivering fuel to Port Tampa Bay yesterday. We got 3 tanker trucks in, each delivering 1.2 million gallons of fuel. State law enforcement continues to escort fuel supply trucks from Port Tampa Bay, Jacksport, and Port Everglades directly to gas stations. As of 6 p.m. last night, 8.4 million gallons of fuel was shipped into Port Everglades, and more than 5 million gallons of fuel were shipped in Port Tampa Bay. We are aggressively working to move excess fuel staged in Niceville to communities throughout north central Florida. While we're making progress, unfortunately, you're still going to see lines, and unfortunately, you're going to still see outages. I can't imagine how frustrating you have to be. I can just tell you, none of us are going to stop working on it. However, if you're in an evacuation zone in South Florida, just remember, you need to leave now. Port Everglades will be closing tonight for safety, and gas will no longer be resupplied into much of South Florida until after the storm. If you're concerned you do not have enough fuel to evacuate, please call the State Emergency Hotline, 1-800-342-3557. But you have to call now. You cannot call in the middle of the storm. You have to call now so we can get you out. If you know you're going to a shelter in your county, you don't have to fill up your tank all the way. So be considerate of others, because others might have to be going further away. There's an app, Gas Buddy app, is a great resource to find opening stations with fuel. All ports still remain open and are operating to bring fuel and supplies in. Shelters. Last night, I directed the closure of all schools in the state, K-12, state colleges and universities, and all state offices from their normal activities. And it's today through Monday. The goal is to ensure we have all the space available for sheltering and staging. Floridians have to have access to as many shelters as possible. We're still going to see more evacuations in the northern part of the state. Fortunately, over 17,000 people have signed up to volunteer. We need more volunteers. You can go to the Volunteer Florida website, volunteerflorida.org, to sign up. We can't thank the ones that have signed up enough, but we're going to need more. There's absolutely no reason for anyone not to evacuate if you're ordered to do so. Shelters are available around the state, and you should follow the directions of the local officials to go to the shelter that fits your needs. You can go to floridadisaster.org/shelter to find a shelter in your county or neighboring county. If you need a hotel, you can go to expedia.com/Florida. Expedia is trying to help us on real time on hotel occupancy. Airbnb has activated its disaster response program. If you're an evacuee in need of a place to stay, or you're an AirHub or Airbnb host looking to open a house for an evacuee, go to airbnb.com/disaster. The Florida Restaurant Lodging Association has encouraged all hotels to waive pet policies, offer shelter, and be compassionate with cancellations. National Guard. We've already activated 7,000 members, which is right now every available member of the National Guard we have has been activated. Law enforcement. Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission is preparing search and rescue teams for potential deployment and has more than 200 officers standing by for the first wave of response based on potential storm impacts. We've been reaching out to law enforcement across the state to make sure they have all the resources they need to keep people safe. Utility providers. They're actively pre-positioning resources throughout the state and in neighboring states. We all know how important both fuel is and how important power is going to be. We will aggressively work with the utilities to make sure if you lose power, to get your power back on as quickly as we can. I want to thank the governors of other states that have provided every time I've asked for something, they've provided it. I know the entire country is behind us. I know the president's behind us. And we have the best first responders in the country spread throughout the state and neighboring states ready to help. But we are running out of time. The storm is almost here. If you're in an evacuation zone, you need to go now. This is a catastrophic storm that this state has never seen before. We can rebuild your house. You can get your possessions again. We cannot rebuild your life, and we cannot rebuild your family. Protecting life is our absolute top priority. There will be no resource or expense spared to protect a family. Florida is tough. Florida is resilient. Florida is unbreakable. We all have to stay together and help each other. Florida is an amazing melting pot of loving people, and I'm proud to be governor of this great state. Este huracán es muy peligroso. Su vida es lo más importante. Cada familia debe de tener un plan. Por favor, salgan si están en zona de evacuación. Para más información, por favor llamen al 1-800-342-3557. Mi prioridad es que todos, familias, turistas, están seguros y preparados. Tienen que tener 3 días de agua, alimentos y las medicinas que necesiten. Como gobernador, mi prioridad es que todos en la Florida estén seguros. Now I'd like to introduce the Attorney General. One thing is it's discussing if anybody price gouges. I've said this around the state. I've said it on national television. We have an Attorney General that will prosecute people for price gouging. This is the time to help our neighbors. This is not the time to take advantage of our neighbors.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor. Thank you for everything you're doing in your leadership. Thank you to EOC. Thank you to FEMA and all our law enforcement officers. And I agree the White House has been amazingly responsive, and I'd like to thank them as well. We've received over 6,500 complaints of price gouging. Right now we're at the rate of over 100 per hour. These are very important for you to report. 1-866-9-NO-SCAM. Or even better, if you have access to internet, myfloridalegal.com. Go on there, take a picture, send that with your complaint. What I'm asking you to do now is to prioritize. The most important ones for us right now are the life-saving ones. Save the bad ones that have made you mad. Send them to me after the hurricane, and I'll go after them. Don't worry about that. But right now, what I need you to do are the complaints about the hotels are reaching up almost to 200 right now. Restaurant and Lodging Association, Carol Dover, they've been amazing, but we have some hotels out there that are gouging. My people are out in the field right now. The Sheriff's Office is going to be assisting us. Thank you, Colonel Cronister and Sheriff G, for that. But prioritize, please. Send me the complaints on hotels and on fuel. What I need on fuel, I need you to take a picture of how much they're selling it for and give me the location of the fuel station, and we will get there. Thanks to the EPA, they've driven down the price of fuel, so there's no reason for fuel to be at these exorbitant rates at many multiple gas stations. You've heard me talk about Chevron. We had a big problem with Chevron in South Florida. I've talked to Chevron corporate. I cannot thank them enough now. They have been incredibly cooperative. They are going after each individual franchise owner who's trying to hurt people. The majority of complaints about water have come, we're in the hundreds now, well over 100 against 7-Eleven stores. 7-Eleven, come on. This isn't the time to make a buck. This is the time to help your fellow citizens. Don't be profiting off water. We don't want you to lose money, but sell water at cost, or at least at a reasonable price, to our citizens, because we will be coming after you if you're not doing that, as well as any other servicer of water. But the main things, again, are hotels, fuel, and then water. Anything else that's made you mad, keep those and give them to me after the hurricane. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General. Now we're going to hear from Mayor Bob Buckhorn. My experience, we got elected about the same time, and I can tell you he's somebody that's focused on making sure everybody in this community is safe.
Governor, thank you. And I think what you see up here is a team that trains for this, hopefully never having to execute it, but it is a team that we prepare every day, every year for these types of circumstances. The state has been an amazing partner for us. The governor has been an amazing partner. I think when you look behind me and see every organization that is represented here, you know these are folks from Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to Mike Merrill, the County Administrator, Hillsborough County Fire Department, TPD, TFR, that is ready to execute. I mean, we've moved into execution mode. This is game day for us. And we play on Sundays the way we train during the week, and we have trained hard during the week. This is a storm, as you heard the governor say, that has potentially catastrophic impact. The track has moved a little bit to the west. Therefore, we will be impacted on the west coast more than we had anticipated. So we need to take the appropriate precautions. It seems to be largely a wind and a rain-driven storm, but surge is going to and remains an issue. Effective 2 o'clock today, I have put in place an evacuation for flood zone level A. Those are some of the low-lying areas in Tampa that we know historically hold water. We're hopeful that the surge, because we're on the backside of that storm, will not be that significant, but we've got to prepare, particularly for those senior citizens and folks that have infirmities that would cause them to be in harm's way. One of the things that the governor said, and you heard from the Attorney General, and all of us up here would echo, look out for your neighbor. I mean, we know who those vulnerable citizens are. We know who those seniors are. We know who those people who may have had some health issues. Look out for your neighbor. Take care of them. Be a great Floridian. We're going to get through this. We're going to come out at the back end of this. There will be challenges. Our friends on the East Coast are in our prayers because I think it's going to be a long couple days for them. But as Floridians, we need to rise to the occasion. You can count on this group to execute. We know what we're doing. We're trained for this. We're prepared now. It's game day. We're going to get this done. But we got to look out for each other and use common sense. My family is leaving Davis Islands. We're going to go to higher ground. You do not have to go to Georgia to be safe. You can go to another flood zone that is safer for you. Find a friend. Find somebody that you can spend time with that you've missed. and we're going to get through this all right. But look out for your neighbor. Be a good Floridian. Be a good neighbor. Be a good human being, and we're going to be okay at the end of this. But let's get this right. We don't have a second chance to do this right.
We'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
Governor, when is the latest? Now means now, but when's the latest someone who plans to take to the interstate should do it to avoid what we saw with Rita, kind of gridlock we saw with Hurricane Floyd back in 1999?
The bottom line is you ought to get on, look at FL. First off, if you're in an evacuation zone, leave. It's as simple as that. If you're not, all right, and you want to get to, and by the way, if you're in an evacuation zone, you can look at a shelter, look at a friend's house, and you can go to inlet a little ways to get away from it. But I would check that first before you drive a long distance. Now, if you need to drive a long distance, go to fl511.com. You can see exactly what the roads are going to be like. We do have bottlenecks, and we've got fuel issues, and we're doing everything we can to continue to get the fuel down here. We're trying to prioritize right now to make sure we get the fuel on the evacuation routes around the state, because we have so many people coming up from the south to the north. But if you can evacuate and stay in your county, that's what you should be doing.
Is there a risk you could have sitting ducks for 20-plus hours like we saw in Texas with Rita, like we saw in Floyd?
My goal is we're tracking all of it. We've got 1,700 troopers working. I know I've been talking to sheriffs around the state all day. They're providing resources to get the traffic moving. We're doing everything we can. But here's don't wait. If you're going to leave, and get on the road and get out of here. Whatever you're going to do, why wait until just when the wind starts? If you know what's going to happen, do it now. Where the mistake is when people wait. Like if you know you're going to evacuate, do it today. I've canceled all the schools around the state. Businesses are closing down. Take care of your family.
Governor, you said that other governors have given you whatever you've asked for. What have you asked for from other states?
So generally, so far what it's been is I need the governors in other states to also waive their rules with regard to allowing truckers to work longer hours, to eliminate the weight restrictions. We've done, and so everybody I've asked, which allows to get more water down here, more fuel down here, more food down here. Everybody's done that. On top of that, we work together with our National Guard, and so we're pre-positioning assets, some from other National Guards, and some of it just outside the state. On top of that, they're helping us with utilities, because this is a little bit harder than a storm that just comes in from the east or comes from the west, because then you can know where you can pre-position. Now this one's coming straight up the middle of our state, so it's a little harder to pre-position. But everything I've asked for, that's generally what we've asked for so far. But they were reaching out proactively to me. So we have offered school buses. We've offered. So let's start with the Keys. So we have one road out of the Keys. All right. So what we did is we offered school buses to say, if you can't get out of the Keys for any other reason, we will provide school buses to come get you. We also, I did this back. I went through Andrew, and I was running a hospital company at the time, and I lost a hospital, and I evacuated hospitals. And so once something was available to me was school buses to use, and so we've offered school buses to everybody that's doing evacuations around the state. Some people need it, some people don't. I'm sure we're gonna use a lot of it down by Okeechobee in those communities to get people out. So, but every county is working hard. As far as I can tell, we do 2 calls a day at 11:15 and 5:15 with the National Hurricane Center, and everybody's working, but we just got to keep. There's a lot of things we have to get done.
Do you see a point where you'll turn the interstates, the southbound lanes northbound, and is there a plan in place if there are people stuck on the highways during the storm?
Absolutely. There is a plan, but the goal is to get people where they want to go before the storm starts. So if you're thinking about getting on the highways to evacuate, I mean, we know when the wind's coming. So get going. And then we will do everything. We've got road rangers, we've got highway safety, we've got local sheriff's department, local police. Everybody's working to get you where you're going to go. We're also trying to make sure we have the fuel there, and so we'll do everything we can to make sure no one's stuck. But don't wait until 2 hours before the storm hits.
Governor, for people who are unsure of whether or not they should evacuate, maybe they're in like a B or a C type zone, mandatory yet. Should we be saving spots in our like local school shelters or community shelters for those people who are in mandatory zones? Like for people that are just unsure, should they shelter in place to keep those spots open?
The plan is to clearly prioritize, but to make sure we have enough shelters for whoever wants to get out, right? That's why I closed all the schools statewide, so there would be more shelter opportunities. That's why I've been asking from volunteers. We're working with the Red Cross to make sure people are certified, so we can open up as many shelters as we need. And the real, so we're everywhere you see people are doing things, and we're making progress. I mean, if you feel comfortable, you can stay where you are, and it's not a risk, then surely you ought to stay there because you'd rather be there anyway.
Last question. With the change of the direction of the hurricane, there's a lot of anxiety for people, especially on this side now, and people who are thinking about evacuating who may not have thought about it in the past and are not being told to evacuate now. What do you tell them? Do they stay? Do they go?
Okay, so the way it works is by county. They're following what the National Hurricane Center is saying, and they're making decisions about where evacuations need to be made, right? And they're looking at and the big risk with this storm, on top of how big it is, and we're going to have rain, so we'll have some flooding. It's really the storm surge. Now, clearly, the southern part of the state right now is at more risk, but if you get 10 feet of storm surge, you get 5 feet of storm surge. I mean, that having 5 feet come in, flow in like that fast into your house and out, that's devastating. But people they're making logical decisions. They're trying to time it to where they give people plenty of time to get out. But if you know you're going to leave, if you've already made the plan to leave, then leave. So I didn't finish your question on the contra. Right now, what we're doing is the first thing we do everything we can to move the traffic. That's what the troopers are doing. The second thing is we allow people to drive on the shoulder. So we're doing that from Wildwood right now to the Georgia line because that increases the number of lanes. The last thing you want to do is the contra lanes because you can't get emergency people down, and we're still trying to get fuel into the state. So hopefully the goal will be that with the shoulder lanes that we can get everybody out that way. So, all right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
A hurricane watch is in effect for north of Jupiter Inlet to the Flagler-Volusia County line and north of Bonita Beach to Anclote River. Rainfall is forecast to be 8 to 12 inches, with isolated areas receiving up to 20 inches of rain. Based on what we know now, the majority of Florida will have major hurricane impacts with deadly storm surge and life-threatening winds. We can expect this along the entire East Coast and West Coast. The Florida Keys should be prepared to start feeling the effects of the storm tomorrow morning. If you're in the Panhandle, you will also experience severe weather. Please be prepared for this. Evacuations. I've ordered school buses to aid evacuations statewide. Multiple counties have accepted these buses, and I encourage any counties with a need for buses to evacuate residents request buses right now. Good afternoon. First, I want Floridians to know that your state government is fully committed to doing everything we can to keep your family safe. I just received a briefing from emergency management officials here in Tampa. Right now, the National Hurricane Center is reporting that Hurricane Irma remains a dangerous and life-threatening Category 4 storm with winds of 150 miles per hour. A storm surge warning is in effect for Sebastian Inlet southward around the peninsula to Venice and the Florida Keys. The storm surge watch is in effect for north of Sebastian Inlet to Ponce Inlet. The storm surge is forecast to be 3 to 12 feet. Think about that, 3 to 12 feet. Across this area, which is life-threatening. A hurricane warning is in effect for Jupiter Inlet southward around the Florida Peninsula to Bonita Beach, the Florida Keys, Lake Okeechobee, and Florida Bay. Your family cannot. I know it's hard to evacuate, and it's very uncomfortable. I think about my mom and how hard it would have been for her to be completely broke with kids and have to evacuate. But you have to do it. You can't afford not to do it. think about your family. You have to keep your family safe. To private business owners, please be compassionate with your employees as they prepare for this storm and evacuate. I was a business owner when Hurricane Andrew devastated the state 25 years ago. The single most important thing right now is the safety of your employees and their families. For the remainder of the state waiting on evacuation orders, listen to your local officials. They will tell you if and when your area needs to be evacuated. Listen to them. Follow the news. We can expect additional evacuations as this storm. Our traffic and roadways experts report that the Keys are heavily evacuated. All gas stations in the Keys are currently closed, but if you're still in the Keys, get out now. We will quickly run out of good weather to evacuate. If you need any help in the state to evacuate, 1-800-342-3557. But if you're in the Keys, leave now. Anywhere in the state, if you're told to evacuate, leave, get out quickly. I'm a dad and I'm a grandfather. I love my family. I can't imagine life without them. Do not put yourself or your family at risk. If you've been ordered to evacuate and are still home, please go to a shelter. I encourage everyone to check on your neighbors. If you know someone in your neighborhood who is not evacuating and should, please contact them. Take care of each other. Please check on your neighbors with special needs or the elderly. And if you can take people in, please do it. Today is the day to do the right thing for your family and get to safety. Today is the day the right thing for your family and every family in the state to make sure you have a plan and get to safety. This storm is wider than our entire state and is expected to cause major and life-threatening impacts from coast to coast. Remember, Hurricane Andrew is one of the worst storms in the history of the state. Irma is more devastating on its current path. Irma has already caused multiple fatalities in the Caribbean. This storm is powerful and deadly. We are being very aggressive in our preparation for this storm, and every Floridian should take this seriously and be aggressive to protect their family. Possessions can be replaced.